No state receiving federal No Child Left Behind funds is required to adopt the Common Core. The requirement is college and career-ready standards, and with federal waivers, states are setting their own approaches to accountability for student achievement. Texas and other non-Common Core states have received waivers, and Ohio operates underneath the waiver as well. And with regard to Race to the Top grants that Ohio received, we have to remember that applying for Race to the Top was discretionary. It was voluntary. Several states didn't apply, and Ohio was under no obligation to do so. And while the Race to the Top grant application awarded points for states that were members of a multi-state effort to develop college and career-ready standards, no state was forced to apply for these funds, and many states that applied didn't receive them. It's also worth noting that Race to the Top has nothing to do with helping states that were struggling financially. States knew that Race to the Top funds would need to be used to support new activities, not existing work. And states themselves had designed those activities and proposed to implement or bolster student achievement by way of them. States are free to abandon the standards at any time. Most are not doing so, because the more people examine the standards themselves, the more they say that they are true reflections of what students should know and be able to do. And the more they see the benefits of those for students. And while some recent polls have indicated that more people have a negative impression of the standards, those same polls also reveal that they know little or nothing about them. Given that we are in the implementation phase, that change is challenging. This type of response is not at all surprising. It's most notable that the highest performing states in the country, including Massachusetts and Maryland, have adopted the Common Core. And in fact, Massachusetts was in the midst of updating their standards when the Common Core opportunity became available. Massachusetts had determined that their current standards had taken the state as far as they could go, and they were working to transition to a more challenging set of expectations. They had already developed those expectations, but they had not yet adopted and implemented them when the Common Core opportunity came about. So they then conducted a significant third-party review and analysis of the newly to-be-proposed standards against Common Core, side-by-side analysis, to a third-party organization. They also had a significant due diligence process to explore and have public feedback on the potential choice of Common Core, and the State Board of Education unanimously voted to adopt them. The earliest states implementing the standards are beginning to see results. For example, the 2011 to 2013 period, the academic achievement of Tennessee, which was one of the earliest adopters of the Common Core standards, who also put in place a variety of other supports in order to bolster student achievement, had the largest academic increase for their students of any state in the country. Tennessee, 21.8 points for 4th and 8th graders over that period of time, 7 points higher than the next highest achieving growing state. And at the same time, Ohio's students unfortunately showed virtually no improvement. We were at the very beginning of our implementation process. Another notable fact about the Common Core standards in our state is that there are a number of entities who are in no way required to adopt these standards, but who've chosen to do so anyway. For example, a number of private schools are using the Common Core standards in their curriculum. All 7 of Ohio's Catholic dioceses have incorporated the Common Core into their graded courses of study and have adapted them to make their specific needs and faith identity real in their schools. The FAQ documents put out by several of the dioceses make it clear, at least in the eyes of the diocese, that the standards were not developed by the federal government, that they do not compromise any Catholic school's ability to choose textbooks and instructional materials, and that they do not compromise religious freedom. Other private schools have adopted the Common Core as well. One in particular, Christian Academy, in its parent newsletter, talks about the Common Core as follows. When you review the standards and benchmarks in the Common Core, you will quickly find the school chooses the literature, informational texts, and mathematics teaching materials, all of which continue to allow our school to provide a Christ-centered learning environment. We're steadfastly adhering to our foundational beliefs while providing students a world-class education. If these types of schools are using the Common Core when they didn't have to, it's an excellent endorsement of the high quality of the standards and their ability to contribute to an excellent education. So when Ohio policymakers have a concern, they identify their issues, they act, and they work to rectify them. Ohio's history of standards-based reform is a direct response to a clear desire to provide what's best for the boys and girls of Ohio, and not being satisfied with second rate for them. More recently, however, Ohio policymakers heard a number of concerns about the state's new standards, and the General Assembly did take some action in order to respond to that. In recently passed House Bill 487, a number of provisions of state law that were enacted directly to address the concerns, some of which you've heard today. In that legislation, just as a reminder for people, requires that any standards that are adopted by the state have some specific characteristics, that they include essential academic content skills for each grade level, that they instill lifelong learning by providing essential knowledge and skills based in the liberal arts tradition, as well as the STEM fields and career technical education, that they be clearly written, transparent, and understandable by parents, educators, and the general public. It also requires that an academic standards review committee in English, language arts, mathematics, science, and social studies. And while educators, professionals, and parents have always participated in standards development in our state, this elevates that work to a new level of public discourse. It also requires each district to establish a parental advisory committee so that parents have direct view into the materials that are being chosen at the local level, textbooks, reading lists, and the like. And it reaffirms the district board is the sole authority in determining and selecting textbooks, reading lists, instructional materials, and the like. It also affirms the district board's ability to permit teachers and other educators to create curriculum according to its direction, and provides relief to teachers and districts relative to the impact of the standards and the use of data over a one-year period, and prohibits the state from working with other multi-state consortia around standards in social studies, American history, American government, and science. And I think Ohio has one of the most stringent and protective data privacy provisions in the country, and that was strengthened even more in House Bill 487. So